Hello, Jay. Lovely to have you with me today. Now, how did this opportunity come up? It sounds so exciting.
Yeah, it was. The opportunity came up through Screen Suffolk. Previously, I was a musician, and I just started to creep into film work. It just popped up on a message on Facebook. A friend kind of nudged me in that direction and said, you should apply for this. I didn't really think about it. And all you had to do was submit your Suffolk accent, your best Suffolk accent. As you can tell, and probably some of your listeners, I don't really have a very strong Suffolk accent, so I had to turn it up quite considerably. And then, there weren't that many applicants. That's the funny thing. So there was probably, he must have saw 4 or 5 people in the interview. And I went along and met him, and kind of went on from there.
What do you think it was that made you stand out as a candidate?
I've been asked this a few times, and I think the thing was, I was told from the feedback from Screen Suffolk was that I was the only person who corrected him, which I guess that's what he wants. He doesn't want someone who's going to be a yes man. And I kind of was in a funny place in my life at the time where I was kind of just like, let's just see, let's roll the dice. And I just thought, well, you know what, he's not quite saying that right. And so I was like, you know what, you could put more of an inflection on that. And I think being a musician, previously, I kind of had an ear for tonality. So I guess that must have just helped me in my favour.
Well, that does make a lot of sense. And I guess, too, it's very nice for them to hear honest feedback on their work like that.
Yeah, I push him to kind of lean into it a bit more. And he'd already been working with a guy called Charlie Haylock. I mean, he's kind of Mr. Suffolk. He's, very knowledgeable. And he'd already been working with Charlie. But he needed someone who could be there all the time on set and help him out. And that was me. I guess what he wanted was a reference. So there was 3 of us. There was Charlie, who was the kind of, I call him the main Suffolk dialect coach. He did most of the Suffolk people. There was a guy called Jamie Matthewman, and he was kind of like, he did everyone. So he would work with Kerry Mulligan, Lily James, Johnny Flynn, with all them guys, which they would have the RP accent, where with all the Suffolk guys, that was with me and Charlie, I was kind of, so I was there all the time. I just spoke to Ralph in a very broad Suffolk accent as much as I could. So just general chit chat, and just made it sure that he stayed in, and he stayed in that accent the whole time throughout the film, even when the camera wasn't rolling.
I heard that you took him out and about in some Suffolk pubs as well to test his Suffolk accent. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, again, that was with Charlie. I came in late. I think Ralph really wanted to get this right. He was very passionate about making sure we were from the East and not West Country. To be honest, I had a normal job, and I quit my job to do this. I just I got the call, and I was like, I had to then call my other job and say, look, I'm not coming in. I'm going on a job. So I can't really tell you much about it, but it's working on a film set.
Well, it is a kind of once in a lifetime opportunity. Now, what did your day-to-day job as part of the production involve, aside from, being the additional kind of Suffolk voice on hand?
Well, I guess a PA, that is the kind of crux of it. I was just on hand to support the artist to deliver what he needs to do, and that was really just supportive in that element, and also I'd have headphones, and I would be checking for his accent, but I mean, by the end he had it, he was so ingrained, because like I said, he was speaking it the whole time. I was like I said, I was more of a port of call and a PA.
And obviously this experience was completely unexpected from your point of view. Was it very hard work? I
mean, there's a saying in the film industry, which I quickly learned, was hurry up and wait. And you would have to scurry, get everything together, hurry, and just wait. And that is, being on a film production, anyone who's been on one would know there's a lot of waiting around, and not a lot happens. But when it does, you've got to be ready. And, it's an intense experience at times.
Now, what would you say working with Ralph was like? I mean, obviously he has played a number of characters, including Lord Voldemort over the years. Was that a bit daunting for you to begin with?
You know what? I was, like I said, I was in a kind of difficult, I was in a real crossroads in my life. And for some reason, I didn't treat it as anything kind of over the top. I was kind of just taking it in my stride, really. I was only now I kind of look back on it and think, wow, I was quite lucky to have that experience. But at the time, I just kind of, someone told me to keep a diary, and I wish I did, because there was so much that happened and went on. But and I wish I took more photos, but you just didn't really have the time or the headspace at times, and they were long days, and it was it is working with Rafe was fantastic. I learned a hell of a lot from working with him. He's a very intense guy, but that shows his commitment to his work.
Definitely. And obviously, like you mentioned, you were on set a lot of hours. Would you say that you had any very funny moments that you experienced while you were there?
Yeah, no, there's definitely one. At the beginning of the first week, really, the first week was the toughest because everyone's learning their roles and it's all being shot in Suffolk. Not much of the film was actually shot in Suffolk. Most of it was in Guildford. And when we were in the first week, I really didn't know my role. I didn't know if it was listening to his Suffolk accent or it was just being a PA. And I really didn't know what a PA kind of really did until I got in the swing of things. And so I found myself kind of in between, and we're kind of getting on quite well. And the director called Rap for the day. It was a long day, and everyone was tired. And I go up to him and I said, "Rafe, that was fantastic. Well done. Really, I thought the accent was spot on." "Oh, thanks, Jay. Where's my bag?" And I said, "I don't know. Where'd you leave last?" And his face just dropped. "What?" And he looked to the second AD, and her face dropped. I looked at her, and I'm like, "What have I done?" I didn't really understand what is going on here. And I was like, "Oh no!" So one of the runners was like, "I'll go look for it," and I'm now starting to sweat. Like, "Oh, I didn't know what's going on. I don't even know where this thing is." And then I'd kind of been minding his phone as well, and I didn't know where that was.
Oh,
so
no.
When I got back to his trailer, I got back and the phone wasn't in his bag. And I get to his trailer, and luckily he's there with a smile on his face, me with his bag, and he's got his phone in his hand. And I was like, oh my God. What I learned was he can't really be worrying about day-to-day things. His job is purely be in that character and look after. If he's having to think about where his bag is, he's that's my job. That's what I'm being paid for. I just didn't know. I was just a bit naive. I soon caught on though. There was a moment, actually, I was so on it once. I knew that I used to kind of correlate with the second AD and say, when are we about to wrap? I'd get his bag. There was once I had to go all the way up into the house, grab his bag and put all his stuff in, and I nearly fell down the stairs actually.
Oh no.
And then I fell out of the door, and he met me as I was running out, and he just went, "Well, you're starting to get it now, Jay. Well done."
I do have to ask, are you still in touch with Ralph Fiennes or any of the other cast or creative team from the project?
Yeah, no, I've spoke to Ralph actually this year. He's a very down-to-earth character. We've been planning to meet up for a pint for the last couple of years, but because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to. But he's a Suffolk boy, as we say. He's he comes back here quite regularly, as I know. So we will eventually get together. It's just finding time.
If this sort of opportunity came up in the future, would you do this sort of thing again? Would you love to kind of relive that time?
Yeah, I definitely would. The advice I'd give to anyone else is if they got the opportunity, I would definitely take it. I would, it's such an insight because so many people, they give anything to have that knowledge and view on what's going on inside that. And I kind of learned more about just how things work. It's kind of like being the center of the world, especially when that film comes out and the trailer is exposed and everyone sees what's happening. You were like, well, I know the underbelly of all this and all the behind the scenes and everything. And it's such a yeah, I feel very privileged to have had that opportunity to work on the film. So,
Are you thinking of working on any more kind of film-based things in the future?
yeah, after the dig, like I said, everything dried up when no one was really working.
Yeah.
But there was a play I saw just before the dig, and it was actually on an ancestor of mine, and he's famous for, not the good reasons. He was one of the last men to be hung in Ipswich for apparently killing a police officer.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, and this story has been kind of taught throughout schools. I mean, my sister was taught about it, and it was kind of your reputation. His name was John Ducker, and he's kind of, in this area renowned for being the police killer. But, evidence through this play that this guy, Tim Fitzhigham, a friend of mine, wrote, he found evidence that he might have been a scapegoat, and that someone had to pay for this crime, and possibly it might have been because he was a poacher. There was loads of ambiguity around the story, and Tim did a fantastic job of covering maybe some more evidence, and that was looking to be turned into a script. But what I was really interested in is having another Suffolk story come to light on the big screen, and working on something like that. So that would be, that's in the works. It's a longer project. I'm just in the process of launching my YouTube channel. This is mainly filmmaking, photography, and kind of a little bit of travel. But I will be doing a video on the dig with some, never before seen footage and some pictures that I managed to kind of capture when I was there. So keep your eyes open for that. So it's up there. I'm just Jay Ducker.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today, Jay. It's been fascinating. And if you had to give one piece of advice to any, young or older filmmakers out there who want to, give something new a go, what piece of advice would you give?
Start small. So the reason I got into film was my father. He's a practicing martial artist and has been for 4 years, and it's also his occupation. Asked me to make a film on him. The film's called 40 Years in the Making, and he said he just bought a camera and said, "Look, I want you to film me. Can you do this?" And so it was just a family project. And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll give it a go." I know a little bit of how iMovies work, and that was all very basic. So I started off with all the basics, and I just got a simple Canon camera. Went out, shot some footage with Dad. Yeah, and that got such recognition. But the point was that it really got me engaged in this and pulled me and inspired me to make more films. And I think if you're interested, start small and make something that is close to you, something you can, thoroughly talk about and be enthused about it, and it will shine through. And I think that's probably my best advice I can give.
Wonderful.